Frankenstein, Dracula, werewolves, phantoms, zombies, gorgons, mad scientists, abominable snowmen. These are the monsters that they have created. Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, Ingrid Pitt, Veronica Carson, Oliver Reed, Madeline Smith, Barbara Shelley, Michael Gow, Hazel Court, Bartine Beswick. These are the people that faced the horrors. Jimmy Sangster, Terrence Fisher, Michael Carreras, Peter Sasty, John Elder, Evan Jones, Anthony Hines. These are the people who created the horrors behind Hammer Studios. Welcome to Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors, your gateway into classic horror cinema, brought to you by Broken Lighthouse Pictures and Something Wicked Entertainment. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors. I am your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and I want to welcome you to our program today. Now, what we love to do on our program is we take an individual film, and me and my guests tend to kind of critique, analyze, kind of get into the belly of the beast, so to speak, on that individual film in order to be able to give you a great outlook and opinion on what we believe to be good Hammer Studio films. That being said, we never know what we're going to say, and every one of our guests has a different opinion, which is going to be the case for today's movie that we're talking about, which is Dracula Has Risen from the Grave from 1968. And to speak about this movie with me, I have the amazing Dave Watkins and Thomas Tinnerello. Thank you guys for joining me on the show today. We're going to have fun today. How you guys doing?
Just to be clear, I thought we were just watching them and just to watch them, not that we necessarily thought they were going to be good or not. So. I thought that's how I just signed up for anything, I'm like, I don't care if it's good or not.
Well, the thing is, we are on the fourth film in the Hammer cycle of Dracula films, and so obviously by the fourth film, sometimes franchises start to lose their luster. But I want to hear from both of you exactly how much of that luster has been lost, or has it gained something? So, thank you guys for joining us on the show today.
Thank you, Kevin.
What I normally do is I always ask, when did you come around to see this film for the first time, and what were your general impressions? Now, I already know that none of us were alive when this movie was released, so it's going to be interesting for me to hear and for our listeners to hear exactly when you got around to seeing this and what were your general impressions. Let's start off with you, Dave. Kind of tell us a little bit about that.
So, I bought a DVD set that had like 4 of these Hammer films in it a few years ago. It was one of the 4 Dracula films in the set, but I think I was trying to watch them mostly in order. I may have skipped some of them, but that was kind of how I first came about watching this one and 3 of the other ones.
And what about you, Thomas?
Well, Dave, if your set has the title for Dracula favorites, Hammer Draculas or something, I think I have the same set.
Yeah. It's got the other ones is with Taste of Blood of Dracula, Dracula 1972, and what are the others?
And the horror Dracula.
Yeah, the horror Dracula, the first one. Yeah.
Yep,
that's it.
Yep. That is the exact same set that I have.
Yeah.
And that is also the same way that I finally watched this film and all 4 of those others. Now, I had seen a review of it from one of my favorite YouTubers, James Rolfe, who is of the Angry Video Game Nerd and Cinemassacre. So Cinemassacre's Monster Madness, he had a Hammer-thon one year, and that was where he did all the Hammer Frankensteins, all the Hammer Draculas, and and that is where we got. That's where I finally saw. Where I first was made of, excuse me, my throat's a little tingly tonight. Where I finally saw his review and was like, "Ooh, that looks like something cool," and it was.
Uh, Interesting. It's funny for me because I never watched any of these movies in order, as I've said in previous episodes. This us going through them for the program has allowed me to watch them in order. So now that I saw the previous one, I actually know how Dracula got in the fucking ice for this one. Because I think this may have been the second one I had seen out of all of them. And so
Yeah, probably because you have the set too. Yeah,
uh,
you know, because the first one would be the horror Dracula, and this is the next one in the set.
yeah, so I think that's how I came about it. Uh, so it's interesting for me to find, and this is one of the great things about doing the show is that I'm finally getting to watch these in the Frankenstein movies in order, or in the Mummy movies in the order they were released, so I can actually have a better idea of what the hell I'm watching. Um,
They do an interesting job trying to
Yeah,
make the continuity work, but not really that.
yes.
You know, yeah.
Well, there's for the continuity of the first four, I think. I don't know. I haven't seen Scars of Dracula, but from what I understand, like the first 4 or 5 are pretty solid continuity. I mean, for the most part.
Yeah, I mean,
One-
there's some
one
goofiness. There's
follows.
some goofiness to it, but it's
One follows
Yeah.
right after the
Yeah.
other, though. Like this
Yeah.
one is like he's in the ice from Dracula at the end of Dracula Prince of Darkness, where we learn that Dracula can be killed by running water, although apparently as we discover it's really more of like a stasis thing.
right.
He's not really dead, and there's really nothing that happens to his body. He's just kind of preserved perfectly in the ice.
yeah,
And,
So it's almost
he's,
kind of
and
like
he's been moved too, because he originally was in the moat right by the house. I guess he's been floating down the river, but the whole house is different
Yeah.
anyway. The
Yeah,
whole
but-
set looks different.
I was gonna make
yeah, it's
mention
almost
of that because they have to climb the mountain to get
Yeah,
to the castle now. When
Yeah.
they were just riding in the carriage the last movie.
a bit bizarre. That is so bizarre. Yeah, we'll talk about that too. There's so much geography weirdness that goes on between
maybe
these
they're-
movies. Like
yeah.
that if modern audiences binge these, they'll see and be like, "Huh?"
maybe there was a
So, yeah,
landslide or
but
something
honestly,
that
I'm
completely
like-
covered the road. So, But
You
they
know
should've
what?
just
You know what
mentioned
it
it,
is?
you
It's
know?
landslide. It could be landslide. They should have, but you know what? I like to believe. I'm just gonna borrow my suspension of disbelief is covered by. I like to borrow a concept that was laid out in what's probably one of my top 3 favorite Dracula movies is Werner Herzog's Nosferatu, where they more than suggest that Dracula's castle exists in this weird kind of world in between worlds. It exists in like a realm of dreams, a realm of the subconscious, a realm that is continuously changing and morphing.
What
And-
year was that one? I saw that recently. But was it before or after this? It was after this.
Oh, that
right?
was 78. That
Yeah.
way after. It's like 10 years after.
Yeah.
But that
'Cause,
does,
like, it was
yeah.
78, which I like
But
to
that,
call
yeah, that does
the year
remind
of
me
Dracula,
though. Yeah. When they have to,
1958.
yeah, when they have to go to the castle, it does remind me of that because it takes them a long time, like
Yeah.
like it does in that film.
It takes them
Yeah.
a whole day. They get up
Yeah.
at the crack of dawn. The priest and the Monsignor get up at the crack of dawn to go to Dracula's castle, and by the time they reach it, it's almost nightfall.
Yeah,
I was like, wow, they're climbing a long time to get to
Yeah.
the castle.
Which
these
I'm
guys
like,
these
why
guys aren't
didn't
the
you-
best of shape either, really. So
No, they're
that's-
not.
That
And
Monsignor's in
they
a lot better shape than you'd expect, though. The way that he looks, he's a badass,
Oh, yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Until he's
Although
not
he's
later.
he's not nearly as much of a badass as Father Sandor in Dracula
Oh, yeah,
Prince of
right.
Darkness.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
No. He's
But
got,
yeah,
he's
in fact,
got some kick
in
to
fact,
him.
in fact, I think maybe you have a different opinion, but I feel like this movie is awesome, and its only real hardcore flaw is that there's no Peter Cushing to fight Dracula, because I feel
Well,
like it would have been so
yeah.
much better if Van Helsing had been back.
Well, that's
But I do
kind of
think
yeah. The Monsignor part is the Van Helsing part, really. That would have been him.
Yeah, I guess so.
I love
guess
the
that
Monsignor
would've
character. I just don't like that they kill him off 2/3 of the way through the movie. I think that was a disservice to the movie. I think he was
Oh,
such
he
a
has a
strong
name.
presence.
Yeah, his name is Monsignor Clint, I think. But what's funny is
Ernst
like
is what they call him.
Ernst
Yeah.
Clint. But he's so German. But
Yeah.
what's funny is like the real, I mean, spoilers for him, but like the real vampire killer in this is not even him. It's the drunk priest
Mm.
in the
Yeah.
beginning who has no name. He's just called
Yeah.
priest at the end credits.
This
And
one
I'm like,
also,
why would you do that?
yeah. This
That's
one also, yeah. This also has an atheist character in it who's kind of the one who's fighting him most of the time.
yes.
But the priest,
Yes, that to me is. I'm sorry. I was just gonna say that. That to me is like the thing that puts this movie over the edge. That's the thing that makes this one stand out from a lot of the other Dracula sequels. Is that it asks that question: how do you kill a vampire? How do you kill the personification of evil, of the demonic primary evil, when you yourself don't believe it even exists?
yeah.
And you can't even call upon the power of the divine to help you, even when it's right freaking there in front of your face. You know, like George Clooney said it from Dusk Till Dawn. If there's a hell, there's gotta be a heaven, Jake. There's gotta be. But like he doesn't even like we'll get into it. But like but I still say like I mean towards the end, he acquits himself fairly well and becomes a hammer hero in the pantheon of other Pauls. Because yes, his name is still Paul in this movie. The hero
Right.
is another Paul.
Yeah.
Well, before we get too
Yeah.
deep into this film, I do want to bring up that one of the main themes in this film, which is not present in most of the other films, is the theme of faith and religion. Which is why it's so important that we have the Paul character who's an atheist, and then we have the priest who has kind of lapsed in his faith due to the fact of the superstitions and the superstitions and the lack of faith from his town. The Monsignor has never wavered in his faith the entire film, but Paul has because of the stigma that Dracula left for the year that he's been supposedly dead, and then his entire church has no practitioners, has nobody that comes to it. That can wane on a character's faith, which is why it's so relevant that he loses his faith and becomes part of Dracula's little what do you call it? There's
Ensemble.
Yeah.
His familiar. He becomes his familiar. Yeah, he becomes
familiar.
like the I was gonna call him drunk priest from here on in, because that's the best way to refer to him, I think. But he kind of becomes the Renfield of this particular movie, even though he's not at all crazy. He's more just like drunk and or catatonic. He's just kind of sleepwalks through most of this movie.
Yeah, but I see that as part of the fact that he has lost his faith, his ability to believe in his own faith anymore, because of what he's had to endure since Dracula was there. And
I think, and I wonder like why, like how that all happens psychologically, because there's not a whole lot that the movie builds on to really kind of figure out like how that happened.
Well, that's good.
What they do is.
Go ahead.
What were you gonna say, dude?
No, go ahead. Oh, you're probably gonna say what I was gonna say, but it's good.
Well, we'll find out in a second. But like but like it starts off with a very kind of crazy kind of cold open that seems like it's from a different movie. In fact, it literally is from a different movie. It's basically a killing that apparently happened at some point during Dracula Prince of Darkness. This girl got killed by Dracula, and her body stuffed up the bell in the church, which, by the way, they never explain how she got there, because, correct me if I'm wrong, folks, and I think for later Hammer films bear this out, Dracula cannot enter a church unless someone invites him in, and most of the time you can't even do that. So I don't know how that body got in the first place. Second of all, they never explain when the chronology of the last movie that she got killed, because correct me if I'm wrong, but like Dracula Prince of Darkness happens over a very short like weekend. Like I don't know when Dracula had time to kill this girl, but okay. But anyways, so that happens, and it provides like a shock to the community. But then Dracula is dead years later, but his castle remains. They make a big deal of the castle still being there. And the castle shadow, literally, the town literally lives in the shadow of this castle. And the shadow actually kind of creeps onto the church itself. So there's this weird kind of visual metaphor, which is never really made clear because there's no shot of the shadow of the castle on top of the church. So it's almost like there's that visual metaphor, and that's supposed to be enough. But I think part of it more is that there's like a feeling of evil that didn't go away. I think it's really what it is. I think it's, even though Dracula is, quote, dead, the feeling of evil didn't go away. I mean, reminds me of a quote, some evangelist or some Christian apologist once did a debate with an atheist, and they're talking about the problem of evil. And he said that you can deny the fact of evil, you can deny the presence of evil, but you cannot deny the feeling of evil. Even if you're like philosophically opposed to the very concept of it, if you're like all Nietzsche, beyond good and evil and all that, you still cannot deny the feeling you get when you see pure evil done. If somebody were to like murder an infant in front of you, you would still feel that. So I guess the implication is supposed to be, I don't know if they really make it very solid in this movie, but it's supposed to be, I think, this idea that his castle somehow contains that feeling of evil and spreads it through its shadow. And that feeling of evil not being conquered is probably all that is required to drain people of their joy and even maybe of their faith. So as the Monsignor character, who's from, where is he from? He's from a different province altogether. He's like from Karnstein or something.
It's called Kleinberg.
Kleinberg.
Yeah.
He comes all the way from Kleinberg to come back to this parish that that he's like district manager of, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, you have nobody. He comes into the priest's church, and he's like, you performed mass to an empty church. What is going on here? And he goes to the bar, like, why didn't have you in church? And they explain to him the whole thing. And he's like, what a bunch of hogwash. I'm going to go up to that castle right now. Why he didn't say, hey, if you think the castle's such a problem, destroy the thing. Burn it down. Never makes that suggestion. Instead, folks, what he proposes to do is, and he never says this out loud, but you just see him do it. He goes and prays and takes this gigantic brass cross off the mantle or off the altar, slings it across his back like it's a barbarian broadsword. And
he actually takes it from the church. Yeah.
Yeah,
which I didn't think you could do, but anyway.
It's pretty hilarious that he just takes it with him.
Yeah, but he does mention
he takes it with him.
He mentions why
I forget what he said exactly, but he
says he's exercising the
I forget what he said.
Right, yeah, he does an exorcism on the door.
Yeah, he's going to put it. Yeah, he puts it. Yeah, he's going to perform an exorcism on the castle itself and stick the cross on the door of Dracula's castle. Which that part is very smart because, in theory, every vampire lore person knows this. In theory, if you put a cross or garlic or something on the entranceway to their castle or to their tomb or to their abode or something, you have effectively killed them because they cannot go back to their resting place. And as soon as the sun comes up, they're deadzo again. But so that part I get. But what's funny, however, though, is how, like, again, the trek to this freaking castle. Where was the road in the last movie? There was a road up to this castle.
Yeah, plus they're walking up until they could have at least gotten a carriage to go part of the way until they couldn't walk anymore, because they walk all the way from the town to the castle, and there's clearly they could have like ridden some.
I know, it's so terrible, and he's caught, and like the Monsignor Clint is.
But it might be visually more interesting to see the priests doing this. Like I said, religion and faith plays a huge part in this. And even at the very end, before Monsignor dies, later in the film, he tells Paul that he needs to do an exorcism for the evil that is Dracula. And of course, Paul doesn't really do it. The priest act to actually do it, and you see him doing the prayer of exorcism. And so that's something that has not been seen in any of the previous movies. This film takes it very seriously. They
No.
bring faith and religion into the storyline.
Oh yeah.
I actually liked. I like that aspect because it's something that I don't see that often in a Dracula movie.
No.
It's not.
Yeah, I know you don't see it very often, and it's pretty cool how and he does the Roman ritual, although like a storm comes around, like it's like Dracula's evil spirit is pissed at him, and starts trying to like kill him with lightning, and he looks up from his little book of common prayers like, oh, what? He doesn't say this, but his face says it like, oh, what strange weather we're having, and then goes back to it. But yeah, so like the Dracula, Prince of Darkness, is just like upset that he's doing this. And when he finally gets resurrected, I have to say this is probably one of the kind of more meh Dracula resurrections. I mean, they could have done it so much better than the way they did it. Well, it's done like so. Drunk priest is exhausted by the trek, understandably. I mean, it's not exactly climbing Mount Doom, but it's pretty awful. And
yeah, he's in pretty bad shape
too,
but to begin with. So.
But he's bad shape, and he's drinking on the way there.
Yeah.
Don't forget, he's also
drinking. And he's drinking.
Yeah,
he'd be drinking, and then yeah, and he falls and conks his head on a rock, and the blood comes out of his bald head and goes down into the crack on the ice, and it gets down to Dracula's lips. But the way they edited it, it's kind of weirdly edited, where it's like first he's under the ice, and then all of a sudden he's just like above the ice a little bit, and somehow the blood has curled up into his lips.
Yeah,
and it's very.
It's not. Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave.
It's kind of hokey too. How he gets out of the ice, the priest falls and lands on the ice, and then it cracks it, and that's what gets it open to begin with. But it is cool that we actually keep continuity a little bit from the previous film.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, well, I can't remember when the last one was released. Was it 64 or 66? Crap, I'm getting my years mixed up for the last one. But I think
it was 66 because
66. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because I think this one says pretty clearly that the Dracula Prince of Darkness is supposed to have taken place a year before this movie.
Yeah, in this movie it does say that Dracula was defeated and it's been a year. That's why the body in the church is essentially a year before then, and we don't know when Dracula had time to put the body in there or why or how. It just is.
He probably had one of his servants do it. Now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Let me address that scene real quick because I think that's something I hadn't thought about. What you said about him putting the damn body in there, it definitely doesn't make any sense, no matter how you look at it. Like, what would be the point in putting it in the bell when you could just throw it out in the woods or whatever? But it's an interesting scene because it starts off with this deaf mute guy who works for the church comes in and he sees blood dripping down through the rope, and then he goes up. So that blood is this is like a very red hammer blood in this one, a lot different than some. I mean, some of them. This is like the reddest that it gets typically.
Oh yeah, very, very, very orangey red.
But then
good.
Yeah. But then the deaf mute guy, which is kind of, they seem to like to do that in these type of films. There's a deaf mute guy who he later on is important to the story. Hardly at the end of it, he shows back up. But then that's when the priest comes in. I think the priest seeing the body up in there is what causes him to do that. But again, what you say about why the hell is it there to begin with? Like, when would Dracula had time to do it? But maybe the other guy.
It makes zero sense.
Yeah. I can't like really make it make sense. But I think that. I mean, even if you say that, the other guy that was helping him, I can't remember the character's name now, but it's a repeated character, like his familiar. It's just a lot of work to bring a body and stuff it up in the church bell because you have to climb up the stairs with the body and then stuff it up into the bell. But it still makes for kind of a cool scene. It's a weird scene too to start it off with, like just being in the church like that to begin with. But it does.
I mean, I know why. I know why they did. They did it to catch your attention.
Yeah.
Catch your attention.
Yeah. Plus, they're probably. Yeah. Also, I'm realizing this now as I'm thinking about it. I'm like, this is a fairly low body count for a Hammer Dracula movie, so they probably added that poor unfortunate girl who has no name at the beginning of this movie, just to kind of up the body count by one, at least, to make it respectable, I guess.
You're absolutely right. This one does have a very low kill ratio. I think 2, maybe 3 people, not including Dracula. Not many.
Well,
Monsignor,
Monsignor, and if you accept that the priest is also dead at the end of the movie.
But the girl gets killed too. The
girl.
Xena
we'll talk
character.
about that. Yeah. That's 3.
Xena, the bell girl, Monsignor. Does the priest die at the end?
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure.
He does.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he does. Yeah.
Okay, because
But still, though, that's at the end. Like when you save, you got to spread this body count out throughout the film, but it kind of still works. So even without the body count, which I wasn't necessarily counting when I was watching this,
neither was I.
But it's I mean, some of these don't have a lot of. There is a lot of. What's interesting about this one is this whole castle stuff and resurrection of Dracula is the first 20 or 30 minutes of the film, and then the rest of the film goes to a completely different location until it comes back to the castle for the last like 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's definitely like you haven't really met the main characters yet until after Dracula's back to life.
Yes, and we should probably note, ladies and gentlemen, that not only is Dracula back to life in this movie, he is pissed. And he is also much more talkative. He has lines, thank God, in this movie.
Yes.
I will say, like what we talked about last time about him having lines and whether it makes it better. I think that a lot of these lines could have been cut. I think some of them are kind of needed,
Yeah.
but I think I'm definitely seeing some parts where it would have been so much better had it just been the reaction and not the lines, because the lines are just most of the time they're not that interesting. Which I've written all of them down, so
there's
not that many of them.
He has one really epic delivery of "Now my revenge is complete."
Which I have a problem with that line. I like he delivers it great, but it's like, why is he like? What's he trying to get revenge on?
Because
exactly.
Monsignor put the cross on his castle door. He can't get into his castle.
Yeah, that's why he's. Yeah, that's why he's pissed.
Yeah, he literally is going after the Monsignor for the rest of the movie. I don't know why he's so pissed. I would say I'll just go through the back door then.
Well, he has to have it removed from the front door, but he needs to go get somebody to remove the damn thing. But
well, he could have had the priest.
I should say damn thing because it is a cross on the front door. But
the
thing, maybe. I would think so. I would think so.
Yeah, well, the priest does remove it.
Yeah.
The priest does it. The Monsignor's daughter does. She removes it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's
right.
Well,
Maybe it has to be somebody pure, but there's also an exorcism on the castle too, so I'm not sure how much. I'm not sure what exactly that's done. We never do figure that out. But maybe like because of that exorcism it needed to be removed, but he goes to get revenge, but he really needed the exorcism removed from the castle.
Yeah. I think it's weird because like I feel like with this movie, what we're talking about here is something that really only occurs from here on. This is kind of like a change in the franchise. Whereas before, Dracula didn't need a motivation to do what he does. He's a freaking vampire. That's why he kills people and drinks their blood. That's all you needed in the first 2 movies.
Well, he did go after him though in the other one. Like he did go after him because he actually went into that other town and like he had the other guy drive the carriage into another town with his coffin in there just to get back at the guy because he wanted pissed at people.
Because
he wanted a woman.
Yeah, but his motivation, but his motivation was he wanted the girl. He wanted that particular girl. He wanted her blood. But in this one, and the next one, if I'm not mistaken, certainly in Taste of Blood of Dracula, those two movies, Dracula now has a motivation. They give him a personal vendetta in this movie and in Taste the Blood of Dracula. And they're both comparatively super petty, which is kind of hilarious if you think about it.
Yeah,
Dracula goes on this whole complex vengeance quest because you messed up my front door, basically. And then the second movie will spoil, going way ahead of us, and Taste the Blood of Dracula. He's all uppity because you killed his servant who was raising him from the dead. So
He
now
usually
I'm
don't
going
even
to, like,
care about the servants usually.
No, he
but
doesn't.
he usually doesn't give a crap. Yeah,
before the
exactly.
plot,
So
he needed
why?
to happen in the next one.
Yeah, exactly. At least this one kind of sort of makes sense. I mean, it
Yeah.
makes Dracula a petty bastard, but that's okay. Pettiness can be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's weird. It's like his whole everything he does in the whole movie is he's doing this to get revenge on the Monsignor, and he's not just doing it, he wants to make Monsignor's family suffer. He's going right after his daughter. He's not only going to kill the Monsignor, he's not only going to kill his friends, he is going to take his daughter and turn her, his pure, well, not really pure, but anyway, his daughter, and turn, not daughter, I'm sorry, it's his niece, because he's a Monsignor they can't marry. But yeah, his niece, the closest thing he has to a daughter. I will corrupt her and turn her into my vampire bride. So that's his whole insult or injury thing, and that's his revenge.
So
well, it didn't start off that way, though. He didn't know Monsignor had a niece. He only finds it out from Xena, who is jealous of her.
Yeah, then he comes up with an even better plan, and he gets.
Yeah,
but once,
Xena. Oh gosh.
But back at that door, though, I got this. What he says, this is hilarious. Like when he first sees the door, he's like, "Who has done this thing?" And there's like this dramatic music. It sounds like something from the Black Lagoon. And he grabs the priest and pulls him to him. He's like, "Who has done this thing?" A second time, and then the priest is like, "The Monsignor. It was the Monsignor." And then Dracula turns around real dramatically, and there's like another really dramatic music, like a dun 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 sort of thing. Not quite like that, but it's such a hilarious scene.
Yes,
he's just awesome. Like screaming. It's just like
it's awesome.
He's so mad about that cross on the door.
It is, but I like that because it shows that Dracula in this film, anyways, is petty and vengeful. He like, I'm pissed off. You just desecrated my home, and now I will desecrate you. And so, because when you're watching him, of the carriage as they're going to town, he's driving the carriage, and you see he's like pissed off on his face. Fuck damn you! I'll get down there as fast as I can. I love that face.
I love that too. But honestly, I think it's also probably Dracula being pissed that he has to drive his own carriage. He doesn't have anybody to drive it for his aristocratic butt. Well, that's what makes him a little tick.
He had the priest with him.
What?
He had
the priest can't drive. I don't know.
Maybe.
The priest drives the carriage later on when it follows the one lady in the forest. The priest can drive.
Yeah, I guess he just wanted to drive and get there faster because he knew a shortcut.
Dracula's pissed off. He's like, God damn these people, these religious people.
It's crazy too when they go get Dracula a new coffin. They just pull one out of the graveyard and dump the corpse out of this lady.
Yes, I love that.
I love that. I thought that was really cool. Like, fuck, I can't get in my house. We have to go to the graveyard and get a new coffin.
I need a fresh coffin. And I will say, I think this coffin is much better than the first one, because in the first one, like, one of my only complaints about Horror of Dracula is the coffin, because Dracula's coffin is white in Horror of Dracula. It looks like a white child's coffin. I think it looked dumb. But in this one, he's got a pretty cool looking coffin, actually.
Yeah.
It doesn't have his name on it, but it looks cool. It's black, and it's got like these cool, like, brass trimmings around it. It looks pretty goth. It's pretty epic, actually.
Yeah, it does.
I also love how the body that they dump, this lady who's like kind of freshly dead, has some fresh looking blood on her chest. Which is weird because she's supposed to be somebody who's been dead for a while. And then I remembered, one of the things that people used to believe about actual vampires is that a sign that someone's body had been taken over by the evil of vampires, that they were vampires, is if you dig them up and you open the casket and their mouths have been parted and there's fresh blood or seemingly fresh blood on their face and on their chest, there's the mark of the vampire. And then we got to stake it, and we got to do the whole ritual and everything. Turns out it's because they weren't embalmed and their own blood kind of vomits out of their body. It's really disgusting, but that's what was really happening. So I think it's cool they put that little detail in there.
Yeah,
That yeah,
you think that that's what
it's pretty neat.
that was the detail they put in there like that way? Maybe they thought about it.
I think they did that on purpose. Yeah,
Yeah.
because like, I mean, come on, this is Terrence Fisher we're talking here. This guy has an eye for detail. And another detail that you may or may not have missed was this visual motif that I think this movie started, and I think they carry it over into Taste the Blood of Dracula. I don't think they do it any further than that. But there's this weird effect that they do that I call it Dracula vision, where basically there's this weird kind of cameo filter around the image whenever, like the first time you see it is when they're going up to the castle, and when the Monsignor's putting the giant broadsword cross into the door, and you see this kind of sepia reddish sort of cameo around the frame, and then later on it pretty much shows up almost every time Dracula is on screen. So I don't know why they did it, but it's pretty neat.
Interesting.
It's almost like it's almost like Dracula's presence itself kind of bends the laws of light and illumination.
Yeah, but this movie is actually directed by Freddie Francis.
Freddie Francis.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. He directed Evil Frankenstein too. But
You're right. He did. And you know what? It's a 50-50 shot with Hammer films. It's either Freddie Francis or Terrence Fisher.
Yeah.
I had a 50-50 shot and I screwed up.
Well, Terrence Fisher directed almost all of the Frankenstein films, but not all the Dracula films. He only did the first few of the Dracula films. He only he did all the Frankenstein films except for two of them. I guess he liked the Frankenstein better than Dracula. He probably it was since he was so at one point he probably had to pick because they were producing them both at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Man, I don't know what I would have had to do. I guess I would have picked the Draculas though.
Whichever one paid you more. Because they directed so many films for Hammer, I would be hard pressed if they had a choice. They kind of either were under contract and the studio just assigned them a film, or if they did have the choice to pick, they just picked whichever one was going to pay them more.
I agree. That's the most likely thing that happened. I believe it.
Well, that's this is one of the great things that you could say about the Hammer studios back in the day. They kind of kept their directing pool small. They kept with the dependable people that they've been working with for a long time, and they had product to produce. And I guarantee you that we gotta make sure everyone gets their fair share. Let's put Freddie Francis on this one. We'll put Terrence Fisher on that one. Shit. Well, we had Terrence Fisher on both of them, but I guess we are shooting 2 sequels now, so let's pick.
Yeah.
And it's probably easier to just assign them one because they weren't just producing Dracula and Frankenstein. They were producing a whole bunch of shit. In their heyday, that is, anyways.
Yeah, Freddie Francis he actually did the Evil Frankenstein and this one. He didn't really do any more of the main Hammer films, and he did a lot of the Amicus films when the Amicus. He probably switched to Amicus during that time period. It looks like he did do Dracula has Rivet, but this is the only Dracula one that he did. So yeah.
I need to do more.
We'll talk about those in the conversations in Amicus.
Well, I got to research more on Amicus because I want to see if there was any type of animosity between the two companies when directors or actors or stuff would jump ship to the other one. I know Peter Cushing did that a lot.
Well, Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee were like in all of the anthologies, I believe.
Yeah, the anthology ones, yeah. But the thing is, if you're Peter Cushing or Christopher Lee back then, you could just do whatever the fuck you wanted to. And if Christopher Lee said, I hate this dialogue, I'm not going to speak a single word. He doesn't speak a single word. They can kind of command that stuff. But yeah, I always wanted to know if there was any type of animosity between the two because they're both British studios competing for the same audience, the same talent, and all that type of stuff. Doing
Yeah.
pretty much the
I
same
mean,
thing.
yeah, I've heard a little bit of some interviews of people about people, not like saying animosity, but they do mention that it was definitely a competitor.
Yeah,
The Amicus and Hammer were competing, and the pool was of audience was definitely getting smaller as the longer they went on.
yeah. Well, I kind of see that as like a
Yeah.
competition between Toho and the company who produces the Gamera films versus Toho's Godzilla films. They're competing for the same freaking audience at the same time. So,
Yeah.
well,
Right, right. I
that's
think
how
I
I
was
thought.
watching like yeah on that Asylum film. I was watching one of that behind the scenes, and some of the producers on the behind the scenes stuff were talking about that, and some of the actors
Hmm.
just having to
So,
compete with it.
but getting back to Dracula, but we can't always just talk about Hammer without mentioning Amicus because they were like they're in competition with each other at the exact same time.
Yeah, well,
Which,
especially it makes sense to talk about Amicus when the
yeah,
director did a lot of the Amicus projects.
there was a lot of crossover between the
Yeah,
two. It's a shame that Amicus didn't have the legacy as Hammer does, but they still produce some good films. So there you
yeah.
go.
Well,
Oh, they
most
did.
of it, yeah, most of those were the those anthology films. They only made a few of them that were feature lengths, but they're still pretty good though. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, some
Oh
of the
yeah.
best anthology films out there.
So I had a question that I remembered here.
Shoot.
Because when we finally meet Paul, our hero, our young, strapping, shirtless lad, which by the way, I love how they introduce him. It's one of my favorite kinds of character introductions in a film, which is where you're talking about a character in one scene, a different location, different time of day, because his girlfriend is talking to somebody about how great Paul is, and we cut and make smash cut from that to seeing Paul,
Yeah.
and like we just assume that that's the dude. I'm right,
Yeah.
but like my question is, I don't know about how well versed y'all are in British invasion rock music and stuff like that, but when I first saw this man and his haircut, I thought to myself, I feel like the people at Hammer were um trying to get somebody who basically looked very much like Roger Daltrey. Like I got from the Who.
Yeah.
Like I got massive Roger Daltrey vibes from this
I
guy.
I feel like he's wearing a
But
wig. His hair looks a little fake to me, the way that it
it
looks.
does.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does.
it's
It
like a
does.
curly
But
wig. I don't know why they did that, but it's also funny that he's not wearing a shirt like you mentioned, because right before they talk about him, it's actually I think it's the Monsignor talking to his sister about it, and they start talking. They're really talking him up like he's this brilliant, upcoming
Yeah.
scholar guy, and then also it cuts to this dude, like a manly dude without a shirt on and a funny wig, and just like building a fire or something inside of
well, yeah,
this
because he works
pub.
in the bakery.
Makes a
You know, he's making
bakery.
pastries.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like he's making pastries by day and going to night school. He's going to get his degree in something.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not quite
He,
sure
he's
what.
reading he's reading a lot of books. Yeah.
Probably reading a lot of Sartre.
Yeah. And then Michael Ripper is like working in there with him. It's one of those I like when Michael Ripper starts getting like larger parts in some of the films. There's like three of them that he has a pretty large part in.
Hmm.
That's the guy who's the lead the manager of the pub, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
named
Yeah. Yeah.
Max. But he's that guy, that Michael Ripper guy is like usually in a lot of the previous Hammer films, he's in there for like one scene or he
Yeah.
plays a cameo, but he's in almost all the Hammer films. There's a few that he's not, but he's almost in almost all of them.
He is the last scenes in.
Huh.
Yeah. But this one he finally
Interesting.
gets a better role in this one.
Yeah.
It's Scars of Dracula and the Mummy's Shroud. Those are the three he has a lot of screen time in.
Yeah, and we mentioned him in a previous episode for the Hammer Studio films. I can't remember which one, but we
Yeah.
mentioned him in a previous episode. So he comes up. And I'm sure his name will come up again when we
Yeah.
talk about his other
He's
film.
more than likely in the next one of these too. I hadn't watched it in a while, but he's probably in Taste of Blood of Dracula more than likely, playing a different character. It's pretty funny the way he looks different too when he plays these other characters.
Yeah, it's like a chameleon, I guess.
Yeah.
And some other actors who are in this, like I believe Veronica Carlson
Yeah.
is Maria,
Maria.
and I think this is supposed to be like her big debut. Like she's supposed to be like the next big Hammer ingenue, what have you. And she did like several other things, I think, after this. Like oh, she did Horror of Frankenstein. Sweet, I forgot. Oh, that's the reboot,
Yeah,
right?
reboot.
Yeah. But who does she play in the Horror of Frankenstein?
She plays Elizabeth
Yeah,
Heiss.
yeah. So she's like the main
Yeah.
female character. I watched that
Yeah,
recently. It was like I think I said it before. I thought it was surprisingly better than I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting a lot. And it is a retread of the first one, and they change a few things, but the things they change are fairly creative. But a little bit of it's a slog though, because you've already seen it in Curse of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
yeah. But then you have on the other side of the spectrum, the barmaid Xena we mentioned before, played by Barbara Ewing,
Mm-hmm.
who is still alive apparently and still making movies. She was in that series Mute that Ryan Johnson did, I think,
Yeah, that's
and
pretty cool.
a
Yeah,
while back. Yep. So I don't know. Maybe it's just because I have a thing for redheads.
yeah.
I actually think she's more interesting.
Yeah, no, I thought she's a really interesting character in this. I like it when you look them up because it's kind of rare that happens when you click on somebody and it's like, holy shit, this person's still alive. Like, it is cool to see though.
They're still making movies.
Yeah, yeah, and they're still
Yeah.
doing
So
stuff. So
yeah, and there's this great like sexual tension between her, Xenia, and Paul.
Yes.
There's an implication that they may or may not have dated before, and there's at least one scene where they are caught in what almost could have been a compromising situation, which is like the aftermath of one of my favorite scenes. Where, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I think everybody knows this out there that the mark of a great horror movie is that if it works just as a human drama or comedy without all the horror stuff, then you know you got something great. And honestly, I think I'd probably watch like a period farcical comedy with this cast of characters because it was fairly interesting when they were all together and they had that little awkward dinner scene where Paul just lets loose some atheism on
yeah,
Monsignor Mueller.
right,
But
yeah, yeah. Because
after that, he's just well,
it
yeah,
would
I
have
think he
yeah
wanted
it
to
would have been that would have been a
impress
hard
the
one to
yeah,
do because he's an atheist and he's having dinner with the Monsignor because he's not supposed to be there. Monsignor's supposed to still be out hunting
Yeah.
Dracula, and he's supposed to be having a birthday party
yes,
with his girlfriend. But then at the same time, since he is a character who is true to himself and he has to tell the truth, he has to tell the Monsignor about it when he asks him about it, so he can't lie to him, and so it becomes like a bit of a row between them, which is a very interesting scene. But it's also
yeah,
interesting later on when the Monsignor has to trust him because he knows
Yes.
he's the only person that he can trust.
Yeah. I mean, I like that conflict.
yeah,
It's not just conflict between the fact that Monsignor is almost like a father figure to the Maria character. So he's concerned about who she's involved with, but also it has to deal with the whole faith and religious aspects of it. And not just saying that, oh well, I don't believe in God and faith like that. No, he flat says, I'm an atheist. I'm a scientist first and atheist
yeah,
second. And I don't believe in that type of stuff.
uh,
Uh, so his journey in the film is very, very interesting because in order for them to vanquish and for him to understand Dracula and what Dracula is, he has to go out of that comfort zone of science and actually have some type of faith and belief in what he's seeing in front of his eyes, and that Dracula is actually some type of demonic figure, like what everyone has been.
yeah,
So
yeah. That's the
Yeah.
thing. I think that I was just gonna say, like, I'm sorry, that this movie I think is the first. It starts kind of the trend of future Hammer Draculas, where they add something to the Dracula mythos with every movie, and with whether they go back to it or not depends on the movie. Where they're not always
Yeah.
consistent with it, but with this one they add something to the mythos, which is that, and I think it's a great add, which is that if you want to kill Dracula, I don't know if it's the same way for all vampires. I don't think it is, but if you're talking, you want to stake Dracula through the heart in his coffin, you gotta pray while you're doing it. You gotta say like the rite of exorcism or something. Otherwise, Dracula will just sit right up in his coffin, yank that bloody stake right out of his chest, and come right after you. Which happens, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I get that. I love that. I love that for this film that faith and religion is something that you have to have for you to be able to kill Dracula. It's not as easy as just staking him. Like he said, Dracula just pulls that freaking stake out, and he's suffering too. But also the way he is vanquished at the very end is also a part of the whole religion and faith, because he gets impaled by a freaking cross.
The same cross from the beginning of the movie.
Same
cross, which I feel like that cross is like a character in this movie. It's got its own kind of sassy flair. Yeah.
Think of it this way. The cross is from a church where all the parishioners have lost their faith in God and religion. And then the Monsignor comes by to restore that faith by using that cross at Dracula's doorstep to exorcise the demons in order to bring faith and religion back to a town that has lost that faith. And then to have Dracula not only be that cross also starts his revenge against Monsignor, but ultimately it is his own demise as well. And also by the fact that the priest at the end of the film has some of his faith restored by saying the exorcism of evil to get rid of Dracula at the end. And that whole cross is a character and theme of this whole movie, and I thought they did a really good job with it. I think I think they did a really good job with it in this movie. So,
yeah, there's like a weird kind of thing where like Dracula finally gets Veronica Carlson, Maria, to take when she's fully under his thrall, and has like gotten bitten a couple of times. Which that's another thing they add to this movie is like they make it a point that if you get bit twice, then you are a vampire, because Xenia only gets bit once, and she can still walk in the daylight and perform her barmaid duties as a human. Although she's like apparently actually kind of in love with Dracula, she really digs getting bitten on the neck by him. Like she doesn't have to get hypnotized. She's like, you got me, and I love it. But he couldn't care less about her.
But she's probably she's probably like is partially entranced by it, even though maybe her personality kind of leaned towards that. But she is probably like, just like the priest is already, just caught up with the whole thing.
Yeah.
But the thing,
but he's got to hypnotize Maria.
Yeah, but the priest is bitten. Maria is bitten. And then the second time Maria is bitten / killed, or not Maria, but Xena. When Xena is killed, and Dracula tells the priest to get rid of the body, you see that Xena has teeth, vampire teeth.
Yeah.
So maybe Xena got to the point where she would be resurrected fully as a vampire, and Dracula says, I've had enough of her. Let's just burn her and get rid of her.
Burned her pretty easily, too.
Yeah.
Threw her in the fire, got rid of everything. That's one hot fire,
Yeah,
Well, you know what? I think it's a thing where, because not many people know this. I didn't know this until I researched it, but like, the most, like, my gosh, like even a conventional oven that can get up to like 500 degrees cannot be hot enough to burn a human body completely.
No.
Yeah.
You need like a cremation furnace that can get up to like 1,000 degrees or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think with vampires, I think that they just burn more easily than humans. I think it's just a thing. That's just part of their weaknesses. It doesn't even show, Kevin. It's another thing they add.
Yeah. Because, once they turn to vampire, they're easily burned.
They're just kindling at that point, right?
Yeah. They just go up like kindling.
Yeah. They don't even like add any dust or anything.
But like I was saying, no, they're just gone. Yeah, but like I feel like Veronica Carlson is hypnotized, and she removes that cross and she just dumps it over the ravine. But like the cross has a mind of its own. It makes sure that when it lands stem down and pointy crust end up, so that at the end Dracula can fall off in a fist fight with Paul, and he gets impaled on that sucker, And my goodness, there's so much blood for a 1968 movie.
Yeah,
It's so
yeah,
gross.
yeah. That's in a lot of ways hilarious to me too, because it's almost like when you're trying to do something, you're trying to get rid of that cross, and then it ends up in a way that you end up just falling on it anyway. It's like sometimes when you're just trying to work on something, and then you get something out of the way, and you end up tripping over it because you moved it in your way. But it's pretty awesome. They just falls on it like
Yes.
that. Yeah,
Yes.
It's like a Final Destination thing. Yes, that's right. Oh, that's so good, Dave. Yeah.
The moment that I saw the cross fall the way it did, I knew it had to come back in some way. It probably killed Dracula. It's all, it's quick foreshadowing because there's very little time in between that whole thing. But it's something that visually is really cool to just watch as it's unfolding. And of course, when Dracula falls on the cross and gets impaled, he's wiggling around.
I mean, it kind of reminds me. It kind of reminds me of Monster Squad because they do that same thing to the Dracula and Monster Squad.
They do. Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
It's funny when he just throws Paul over the edge too. At that point, he's just like she's struggling with him, and also now out of nowhere too, on the front of that castle, there's just like a random ledge there. Of course, wasn't there before, but it's like
they're on the,
it's just like that.
back end of the castle.
I mean, I thought it was the front. Maybe it
I don't know, dude. I'm just making this up.
But maybe like the whole front, like there was a landslide and the whole front part of the property just caved in. Kind of maybe that's what happened in the year in between.
No, Dave. I'm telling you, it is shifting reality. Dracula's castle is a character in the story, and it is shifting reality. It lives in another plane of existence.
I have it for
That's
you.
What it is.
Dracula's castle in this movie, this series, is like the castle in Kroll. It just moves on its own.
Yes. Yes, it moved on its own. It can freaking teleport. But it can only teleport within Transylvania, though. It can't go anywhere else.
But the thing is,
what it is.
I do like the way that they incorporate the castle in this movie, because having it be on the top of the mountain that makes it hard for people to get to is a really visual thing, because we're watching these characters slowly ascend to get to Dracula's castle. Each time they have to get to that castle. I actually, and it's very visually interesting, especially when the first time we see it, but then we know the journey up there when it shows up later in the film. This is not something that they can just drive a carriage straight to get to Dracula's castle. It is a facility, a monument to evil that overshadows the town below it. So I actually like that for this film. They actually use it.
Yeah, that's
so.
And it's still standing at the end of the movie. They still haven't really removed the problem, because, as we all know, and I think even Dracula himself probably knows this at this point, that even though he's just kind of melts on that cross, the only thing left is his cape. But we all know, I mean, they probably could have just even put the credit up, we all know that Count Dracula will return in Avengers Endgame. I mean, in Avengers Doomsday. Man, I screwed that joke up, man.
No, the joke was there though. That is funny.
The joke was there.
But in the main part of the film, with that location, with that bakery, that's a pub.
Yeah.
And then it's a cool. They spend a lot of time there, and they also have a rooftop thing that connects that location to the place where the Monsignor and his sister. So it's a cool way they're able to move between the scenes and
production design. Yes. Production design is amazing in this film, because it's visually interesting to see that Maria gets around all the time to this place by just traveling across the rooftops. And then, of course,
she just Spider-Man's around.
But when when the Monsignor's searching after Dracula, we really get to see them go between the other rooftops.
Right.
Dude, yes, it was. I really, really love the production design. Even though the bar /inn/whatever this whole film mostly takes place in that Max and Paul work at and Xena work at, has this secret basement that everyone seems to have forgotten. And at some point, Dracula and the priest has moved his coffin there.
Yeah.
Uh,
That thing
I don't
keeps
think
going
wait,
though.
wait, no.
That thing
Yeah,
keeps going
no,
down, man.
it's not a secret. I think that's just a wine cellar. It's a very large wine cellar.
Yeah.
it
That
looks
wine
like
cellar is bigger than the entire thing, but yes, it's
it
the
looks
wine
like it's
cellar.
catacombs. I was like, when I first
It
watched
does.
it, like, oh shit, there is some catacombs. Where did they find these catacombs? And then of course we see that the priest just goes through the bakery section through a door that has some bags in front of it, and he's down there, and I'm like, oh, so he's like in just another basement, but it looks cool as shit.
Yeah, it's the basement of the bakery. Did they mention at some point there's even some further thing that goes even further down, maybe into like a sewer or something like that?
I know, you know what? That's
I
just what
think
I
I think
assume.
so.
Yeah, I
I
think they.
assume that.
Yeah, they don't want to go down there. It's
I
probably
think
too
so. Yeah, I
drab.
think
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, you kind of get the impression they put these bags in front of the door, like they don't go down there at all for any reason. And so when Paul is looking for Maria but can't find, I've been down there twice. I can't find her. Like, I guess you didn't go far enough.
Yeah, yeah. That's but there's like that scene Thomas was talking about earlier, the kind of drama scene between Xena and Paul when after he gets drunk when he gets kicked out.
Yeah.
And then that's the first time you see Maria come in there, and then Xena's actually trying. She got him up in the bedroom, and then she's going to start trying to make out with him, and then Maria comes in there, and it's actually like the way that they don't. She doesn't make a quick assumption that they're just she knows Xena's the one who's doing it, not Paul, even though you kind of at one point because he was drunk, it probably would have went along with it, but he was too drunk to do it.
Yeah.
But I like the way that it doesn't escalate into her having a big fight with Paul.
I like it that she doesn't really have a big fight with Xena either.
Yeah. She's
I
like, oh,
like
Zena's at it again. I mean, they look like they could get a threesome going or something there for a minute, you know?
Yeah.
So
I like
yikes.
I like the way
Trikes.
that they do it because then you realize that Xena is a barmaid who she knows that she's stuck as a barmaid, but there is no bigger aspirations other than that because she can't get the guy that she likes and who is like a figurehead for something better. Like this is a guy whose aspirations are bigger than just being someone that works at the bar where she's kind of stuck there. And when she can't get Paul
she's
because
kind of
of
living her
Maria,
best life, though. She seems to be having a
the
good
thing
time.
is, well, she has a lot of freedom. But the thing
Yeah.
is that once she becomes a thrall of Dracula, Dracula becomes something bigger than even Paul is. And when Dracula it wants Maria, you see that jealousy and the animosity come out of Xena as a
Right. Yeah.
and so that adds a lot of different elements to the story that make the characters much more interesting than just, like we don't
Yeah.
sense that this is just a straight jealousy. Dracula wants more vampire brides and can't just do me. We get the sense that Xena also has a little bit of secret animosity towards Maria for the fact that she has Paul and
Yeah.
she can't because Maria's with Paul. So I
Yeah.
like some of the I like
Yeah,
a
you
lot
think,
of those elements.
you think maybe Xenia's a bit of a gold digger because she's like, oh, now I got Dracula. This guy's got money. He's got prestige and power. He's a lord of the undead. That could be his queen.
I think Xena is an interesting character because I think Xena is someone who has lived a comfortable life as a barmaid and knows her place, but she does like want something better. And that's the same kind of ideal that Paul wants out of his life. But it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost. And with Xena, she can't get with Paul. She almost had it there. You see that she was just there until Maria showed up at the windowsill, and it's like, oh shit, she showed up. Damn it.
Yeah.
uh,
I
and
think
so when it's Dracula, like she tries that whole kind of jealousy thing on Dracula when Dracula wants Maria, and obviously into her downfall. Because Dracula just more or less kills her and tells the priest to throw her out. like she's nothing.
Because she's nothing to me. I like blondes better.
So yeah. So there's a lot of elements about this film I like that, other than the Monsignor dying at the point where he did, I was like, oh man, I like this character. I like the act. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of weird the way they did that, but then they had to give that to the priest, I guess, the winning. I wasn't even sure that he had died. I just assumed after never seeing him again after that. I'm like, at first I thought he'd maybe just fallen asleep and they were gonna have a scene with him later, but no, I'm pretty sure he died in the scene. Yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah, no. Yeah, he was donezo, but like I know, again, I know why they did it, because you have to kind of shift it to Paul, you have to make him, well, I mean, we're not just doing that. Doing that way also raises the suspense and the stakes, because now stakes, pun intended. The the fact is like Paul is at a significant disadvantage in fighting Dracula because he's an atheist. He doesn't have the faith that can seal the deal. So he's got nothing except the instructions that Monsignor Mueller gave him and how to do it. That's all he's got.
Yeah.
And he's got the drunk priest who may or may not come in a pinch. And
but the drunk priest is looking more likely to screw him over than helping him, really.
Yeah.
Which he does most of the time.
Yeah, but keep in mind that during the whole film, he believes in the priest. He goes to the priest for guidance and for help throughout the whole film. When Monsignor when he's on his deathbed and Paul doesn't realize that it was the priest who killed Monsignor, he asks the priest to come with him to the Monsignor's house. Yeah. And what's that look? That look is Monsignor recognizing that the priest is in his house after the priest just killed him, and then he dies. I was like, damn.
But it's like that Monsignor really screwed up not telling Paul about the priest. Because it should have been part of the conversation. Like, don't trust that priest. It's like he's part of it. So
don't trust that drunk priest whose name I don't even know.
Yeah.
Who hit me in the head. Well, a part of it also could be like that priest was like he was the Monsignor was extremely shocked to see the priest in the town right before the priest hit him upside the head with the brick that ultimately led to his demise. He couldn't believe that the priest who cowered at the at going up the mountain to go to Dracula's house and then fell and had to be rescued or saved by the Monsignor could be like one of the people instigating this whole thing with Dracula. Yeah. Like, it's like shocked.
I think he like had like a piece of tile from the roof because it's like that tiled roof, really heavy tile. Yeah. I think that's what he hit him in the head with.
Yeah, he hit him with I mean, I was interested.
Bricks out there.
Kill him.
Yeah, yeah, but the bricks. I mean, it doesn't really show it exactly what it is, but just from the fact that he's up on the roof like that, and you see the tile roof. Those things are big, though. The way it's actually made out of brick. The roof tile is.
That's what I assumed is what the priests use. So I didn't think anything of it. I just thought it was part of the roofing up there. So.
Yeah,
but it killed him. So
it took a while to kill him. It gave him some brain, and he knew he was dying.
Yeah,
he's like, "Don't get a doctor. There's no time. We just got to talk."
Well,
they could have done both. He could have sent Anne to go get the doctor, and then and it's.
Well, back in those days, the doctor probably had to, he probably lived 15 houses down, and they didn't have a car, so they had to walk.
He probably all they had to do was walk over to the pub. He's probably in the pub, like every other character in the movie.
If they just had Van Helsing, if they had Peter Cushing's Dr. Van Helsing, he probably could have saved him.
Yeah.
He probably could have performed some emergency cranial surgery and just drill the hole in his brain, in his skull, and got the bleeding brain drained out. He would have been just fine.
Yeah.
Like I said, the only flaw with this movie is that there's no Peter Cushing. Actually, there's another thing about. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, okay, so this just came to my mind, and I know you guys will probably hate this idea, but what we need here now is a Dracula versus Frankenstein movie with Peter Cushing playing both Frankenstein and Van Helsing, and then we'd be perfectly fine. Christopher Lee is Dracula, right?
Well, I just have a problem
Yeah,
with Peter
that would have
Cushing
been
playing both
weird.
the characters. He needs to be Frankenstein only in that one, I think.
No, he can
I
play
like the
twins.
crossover.
They're twins. They just don't realize it.
But
That would have been
I do
so
like the
weird,
I like
though.
the crossover idea, but not him playing both of the characters because Van Helsing doesn't come back into this for until like that 1972 one.
1970, yeah. And
Yeah,
that's not even Van Helsing
Yeah,
either. That's like
it's
the
like ancestor or
yeah,
something.
ancestor.
There's
Sorry.
like a scene at the beginning that takes place with the real Van Helsing, though.
Hmm. That one I've only ever seen once, so I don't remember
Yeah,
that
there's
one.
like an opening scene that takes place in this time period,
Okay.
and then it's
yeah,
only like a few minutes
yeah,
long. It's like the best scene of the film, though.
yeah. That's the one. Yeah, that's the one where Dracula gets impaled on the spoke wheels of a carriage,
Yeah, yeah,
which is a pretty
yeah.
yeah. So a couple of fun facts about this movie before we close it out is according to IMDb, number one, this movie apparently, since it came out in 1968 at just like the perfect time for this,
Okay.
this was and I cannot verify this. I cannot believe this is true, but according to IMDb, it says that this movie is the first movie ever to be given an MPAA rating.
Okay.
Like this was the first. This was the first one they rated.
Well, if
And
it's on
it's
IMDb,
rated G.
if it's on IMDb, it's got to be true.
Must be true.
It probably
Yeah.
is true
The other
though,
thing,
more than likely.
I do find it funny how this is a G-rated movie. This movie is rated the same as Pixar's Toy Story. Take a nice little double feature.
Well, I guess they only had was it two ratings? Was it G or NC-17 or something? When
No, no. NC-17 wasn't even invented until 1991 or something like
but
that.
I guess
But
if
yeah,
it was G or like you can't watch it though, pretty much. They don't even know if they had maybe they had a PG rating. I don't know, but everything was G then.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's G, GP, R, and I think X. That was it.
I mean,
GP eventually became PG,
yeah,
but it's very strange because G didn't used to mean kids movie. G meant general audiences, which is what it was supposed to be.
yeah,
I
right.
mean, people
It makes sense though. Yeah.
I mean, people forget that 2001: A Space Odyssey is also a G-rated movie,
Yeah.
and so the original Planet of the Apes, which came out, I think, the same year as this movie. Now that I think about it,
Yeah, you might be
but
right.
yeah, so weird.
But
But
I guess
also,
it's like yeah, but it's like it makes sense though because it's like general audience and it's for general audience. They don't have to really qualify it any more than that. It's weird that they kept raising it bigger to be more specific, I guess. To the
Oh,
point now you got spoilers in
yeah,
the rating of the movie, you know.
why you say that?
yeah, and
Sometimes it'll be
also,
like there's rape and nudity,
Oh,
suicide. Suicide, when they say suicides in the movie, it's like, okay, well that just gave away a plot point, you know.
you'll be looking out for that. Who's gonna off himself in this movie? I'll
Yeah.
bet it's this guy, and then
the
it
funny
is.
thing is,
Okay,
I never
but
pay any
yeah,
attention. I never pay any attention to that because I'm too old and I just go see what the fuck I want to. But
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
parent, I need to be looking at them more. uh, but it's
yeah.
odd.
Oh,
It's odd because I
yeah,
kind of look at it as though as very skewed because I have to be I have like if I think it was offensive to me when I was a kid, maybe I should let my kids watch it, but that doesn't work because I was raised on horror films.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's weird shit happens sometimes when you go to show your kid a movie that you think was completely okay when you were their age and you're just all of a sudden out of nowhere something real crazy happens. You're like, yeah, okay, I didn't realize that happened in this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
I was watching Puppet Master 3, I assumed that one wouldn't be that big a deal. And out of nowhere, there's like this general like having a threesome with three other women out of nowhere. And then later on, there's
yeah,
but there's only two scenes in the movie like that,
yeah.
and
And the first,
rest of it's fine, you know.
Yeah, yeah. My wife, and this is a weird tangent we've gotten off to, but just to quickly say this, so my wife did not want me to screen the movie Ghostbusters to my 7-year-old, but he has seen the cartoon, the real Ghostbusters. He's familiar with it, and I'm like, I was watching it with Adam, and he just kind of sneaks around the corner, starts watching it with me. And I say, you do know if it's too scary, you need to go around the corner. And he's right there laughing his ass off with me. So he's getting all the jokes and shit in the movie. And my wife is like, you didn't show him that, did you? He was laughing the whole time.
Yeah.
I like, because the thing is, I rewatched it and I realized there's not that many ghosts in Ghostbusters, the first one.
That earlier scene in the library, if he saw
Yeah.
that, he might have been scared. But
But he missed that scene. He
Yeah.
did. He missed that scene. But the thing is, we as young kids, because I saw that when it first came out, and I was probably 8, maybe 9, maybe 9. And my son's 7. So I didn't think it was scary when I was a kid. But nowadays, you know, younger kids who are raised on cartoons that look like like weird 3D animated cartoons may look at like Ghostbusters and see it as scary because it doesn't have these weird 2D cartoon type things. And then like these Hammer films, they're rated G, and they have this candy red colored blood that doesn't look like real blood. Is it really scary? Is it really horrifying?
Well, you're not going to be able to get a kid to watch these anyway. I put this on.
Everybody
clears the room. They're like, no thanks.
Well, and the thing is, he only really like Dracula only kills like one person in this film directly, and that's Cena.
One dead body.
Like,
one dead body.
Yeah, so this is like a film that in reality, and there's nudity in this one.
No, there's some really low cut outfits from Xena. They make a, and that's the other thing I was wanting to talk about. Like, this is like, as far as I know, this is the first Hammer Dracula that really leans into the sensuality of the heaving bosom, which becomes a staple of Hammer from here on in. They so much so that they make it a dialogue. Like, some of the guys are literally, she catches one of the guys in the bar looking down her corset, and she's like, "Oh, you're gonna be, they'll teach you to be a cheeky fellow," and like pours beer on them or something.
Yeah.
So like they totally draw attention to her bosom in this movie.
Yeah, but it's not nudity like in the Vampire Lovers, which has a lot of nudity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in comparison to some others, I don't think there was any nudity.
No.
Yeah.
This is a very tame movie by Dracula standards and Hammer standards. Like, when I was rewatching this, I was like, huh.
Now there's not nudity in the scene, but then when Dracula comes into Maria's bedroom and mesmerizes her. That one's fairly sensual. That scene, when he's in the bed with her, like there.
But then of course, when you have younger viewers, do younger viewers like 7 to 10-year-olds actually understand what they're watching?
Well, they'll think that's what you do when you get a woman into bed. You bite their neck.
Oh gosh, no, that makes it even worse.
Well, I'm hoping that I didn't think like that when I was a kid, when I was watching all these horror films I was raised on. But when we're talking about ratings and how this was rated G and a lot of them were rated there because they didn't have that, like the rated PG-13 or the British version of the, was it MA-14 or MA-16 or what the heck they do now.
Yeah.
At that back. Yeah. It kind of makes you wonder,
Although I think, if I'm not mistaken, though, I think with the very next one, Taste the Blood of Dracula was the first Hammer Dracula that is rated R and has some nudity in it. And then they went even further with that with the next one, Scars of Dracula, which famously has which famously turns up the violence, and it's like I think it's the first Dracula that has a scene where like Christopher Lee like literally just stabs the heck out of some girl in her bed with a knife, and it's pretty intense. So, but I don't think they ever get that far in the rest of them, because like Dracula 8070 is PG. They pulled it back significantly. I guess there was some pushback from Scars of Dracula. I don't know. But apparently
they were always struggling against whatever the censors were throwing at them. But it's they were probably figuring that out. Sure. They were probably wanting to rate it higher, like for less audiences. If it's general audience and a lot of people can see it, if they try to go different than that, it's probably going to diminish their box office results.
Yeah, yeah. But I feel like, and speaking of gore, the other fun fact about this movie that was hilarious when I read it again, IMDb has to be true. Sir Christopher Lee loved to recount this little tidbit from his autobiography. He said that Hammer was given a Queen's Award to the industry while shooting the final scenes of this movie, while Dracula is impaled on the giant cross. And just so happened that same day, a group of British government dignitaries visited the set
Yeah.
and were watching as Christopher Lee, Knight of the Crown, was thrashing around with gore, blood all up in his chest, and flailing around impaled on a big old cross. And after the scene wrapped, the minister turned to his wife and said, "That man is a member of my club."
Oh my God.
Yeah, of all
So
scenes to show up for, at least I guess at least it wasn't like one where there's some sex going on or something.
All
might have
right.
been awkward if they did that during Dracula Prince of Darkness when he's like pulling his shirt off and having and having the girl suck from his bloody nipple.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that actually. So, all right. So, what's the film that's after this one?
Taste the Blood of Dracula.
Oh, that's Taste the Blood of
Yeah.
Dracula.
So, do we have anything else to add to this Dracula?
I was
I don't
going
think
to
so.
point out. Yeah, I was going to point out something. This is just like a fun thing that happens in the film. Like or when they first come to the pub, they're playing this weird game with these glasses of beer, and the game is
Oh
like
yeah.
Oh yeah.
they got the beer glass up on the ceiling, and they're holding it with a broom handle. And I guess the game is you have to hold it and drink some beer at the same time, and it's a very bizarre thing to be doing, but it eventually makes a big mess. But it's very unique though coming into it like that. I
Yeah,
like
I've never
the
seen a pub game like that in any other movie ever.
yeah. You would have to. I mean, because if you think about it, there's going to come a point in time when that glass hits the ground and there's going to shatter everywhere. You think maybe you had a plastic one or something might be a better way to do it. It's still going to get beer all
Uh,
over the place.
I wonder how they got it
yeah,
up there to begin with.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I thought that was
Yeah,
fun because normally what you see in these movies is like a familiar bar game, and this bar game was fun to watch because it was like I've never seen it before, other than in this movie. So
yeah.
it kind of puts you into this weird period world where this is what they do every day. Let's
They
just
must have, yeah. I mean, somehow they have it taped to the stick too that they're holding it up with. Maybe that's how they get it up there to begin with. But it would be getting it up there to begin with would be really hard.
yeah.
And that's how like when Paul first like Maria comes in there and she distracts him when he's trying to do the game, and then he gets beer all over him. So when they go to see the Monsignor for the first time, he reeks of beer from having it fall on him.
Yeah.
yeah,
Phil,
and I love the way the aunt or Maria's aunt is gives him a look like because she smells
oh
it
yeah.
on him.
Yeah.
Right.
But the funny thing is that Maria says that her mother would notice it, but wouldn't say anything. And when we see that in her look, it's just priceless. It is priceless.
Yeah,
It's
but
great.
then everything would have been fine had the Monsignor not been there. But then he's definitely going to say something about it.
Yep. Oh my God. There are a lot of great moments in this film. I hate to say it's the fourth film in the series, and I enjoy this one more than some of the other ones that came before it. I think this for me was a much more solid film, despite the fact I'm not a vampire film lover. I think this was a much more solid film in terms of some of the themes that they presented and how they were executed throughout the film, which is probably why you heard me talk the way I did about this movie, as opposed to some of the other movies in this franchise. But that's kind of the impression I had with this film, and I haven't seen this film that often. I think this is probably the third time I've seen this one, and the first time I've seen it in order of release with all of them. All right. So, any other final thoughts
Yeah,
about this film?
it's really
What was that, Thomas?
no, just no. I was gonna say just yeah. I think it's probably my favorite Dracula sequel of
Ah,
all of the Hammers. I think this is my favorite of the Dracula sequels. Now, having said that, I still have not seen the Satanic Rites of Dracula or Dracula: The Seven Golden Vampires.
You're probably
So,
it's probably
but
going to
I
remain your
yeah,
favorite.
it's probably going to remain your favorite.
yeah
Yeah. Especially at the Golden
yeah
Vampire one, but that
That was fun. It's
yeah,
very,
yeah, but
very,
it's
it's
not gonna be
fun.
your favorite. That's definitely
Um,
one of the lower ones, but at least it's got Peter Cushing in it.
yeah. Well, that's why it's fun.
Yeah.
Um, okay.
yeah.
With
So,
that,
well, that's all I would say. And yeah, yeah.
No, I mean I think it is one of the stronger ones. It's definitely in the top three
yeah.
for sure. I think it is really really well done.
Okay.
Oh yeah, when we finally get down to Seven Golden Vampires, we should just like rate all of them. We got to rank these.
I
Yeah,
don't think I'm gonna
That'll
remember
be-
that. We probably won't get to that one till like next year, dude.
you better
Well,
start
I'll remember it.
making your list.
Yeah, you better keep track of it right now. Keep in
I'll write
mind,
that sucker down.
Yeah.
because we have how many? We're on the fourth one. How many do we have left? 3 or 4 more?
We have Taste the Blood of Dracula, Scars of Dracula, Dracula 80 1970, Satanic Rites of Dracula, and Dracula versus the Seven Golden Vampires, Seven Brothers, whatever you called it last.
Yeah. Right.
That's 5 more, dude. 5 more.
Five.
Well,
So everyone,
I can tell you the ones we've already seen are going to be the better ones. Include if we include Brides of Dracula, because we could go ahead and compile the top like 5 at this point. You know what I'm saying?
well, the thing is, we've hit upon where we will have, I think, maybe 2 more this year that will be released as episodes, unless we just decide to plow through the Dracula films. The way we are releasing them now, we don't. For everyone listening, we just don't want to have a month be just Dracula films, so we spread them out.
Yeah.
Produce so many vampire movies that we just don't want to just go through all the Dracula ones really fast. So I think we release one episode every 2 or 3 months is how we do it. So we might get to 2 more before the end of the year, maybe 3. So and then by next year we should be done with pretty much all of the Hammer Studio films if we're lucky. So with that, I want to thank you both for joining me in this conversation in Hammer Studio Horrors, in which we talked about one of these Dracula movies. Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. From everyone listening, what we love to do is we love to rate the movie. Now, we like to rate it from 1 to 5, 1 being poor, 5 being amazing. But what we like to do on our show is we like to take an object, quote, or saying from the film to attribute to our rating. What do you rate the film, and what object, quote, or saying do you attribute to that rating for this film? Mr. Thomas, we're going to start with you.
Well, Kevin, I think there's only one thing I could choose at this point, and I'm going to choose that gigantic brass broadsword-looking cross.
I knew you were going to do it. I got a plan B.
I can't.
Yeah, I now have to
resist.
go to plan B too. So go ahead.
I could not resist that big, beautiful cross. If I could find like if I were stupid rich and collected props and or had a wall of movie swords, I would stick this thing right in the center of it. And people are like, "Well, you got a big old cross and amongst all these swords from Highlander and Excalibur." I'm like, "No, do you understand? This cross is a sword. It impaled Dracula." And I'd have a whole thing about it, and I would nerd out with the person. So, yeah, it's got to be that brass cross, something that looks gold depending on the light. But yeah, I would say this movie's got 4. I rate it 4 brass broadsword looking crosses out of 5. It's great. It really is. I wouldn't say it's as good as Horror of Dracula. That would be like a 4.5. But yeah, this sucker's the bomb. In spite of the fact that there's no Peter Cushing. And and some other little creaky things that come into it, and a beginning that makes 0 sense. But yeah, other than that, it's my favorite Dracula sequel, and it's one of the 2 or 3 that I will probably rewatch again at some point.
Okay. What about you, Dave?
I'll rewatch any of them, even if they're bad. So I don't know.
We already know your standards are low, Dave. What do you rate this movie?
Our standards are much lower than y'all.
Well, there's also like there's something to be said about something being bad too, like the 1972 one. There's something really goofy bad about that type of shit.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna pick the cross, but I'm gonna do something different. I was gonna say a beer on a stick, and I'm gonna give it 4 beers on a
I knew
stick.
it.
And I did have
I knew you were
I did
going
have
to
another option, but I'm gonna let Kevin keep that one. I'm sure he'll pick it.
You guys already took both of my options, so
You didn't even remember the beer on the stick till I brought it back up.
no, but you reminded me of
Yeah.
like I love that scene because Paul looks like he's like in his zone when he's practicing that whole game, and it's funny for us as an audience watching it when we don't have a whole lot of funny moments in this movie. So yeah, okay, so
There's a lot of funny moments. You just have to have a very dark sense of humor. Like when Dracula when he dumps the body out of the coffin to take the coffin.
well, don't mention anymore because that's my next one. Damn it, I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna be a little bit more kinder than this one than both of you. I'm gonna give it 4.5 newly excavated coffins from the ground in this one. This is by far my favorite of the sequels, and I sometimes, if it had Peter Cushing in it, it would be my favorite. By all means, it would be my favorite. But despite the weirdness with the opening death, I really like that death because it's just a cool death for a body to fall out of a fucking church bell. I just think that's cool as shit. My things is that, the Monsignor does die, 2/3, but I get it. It's part of the story. He has to die. I don't like it, but he has to die for the rest of the movie to make sense. My only flaw with this film is really the whole priest falling down, bleeding from his skull, blood goes into Dracula's mouth just perfectly. That's pretty much the big flaw for me. I just laugh at that. That's just funny to me, and that's not in the good way funny.
It's a cool like, opening though. That the whole trek up to the castle and just it's like those two, the priest and the Monsignor. It's like you would not expect those characters to be doing what they're doing, and it's spending so much time with them at the beginning of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I like it. This is very different than some of the other ones, and I like it because it doesn't have the Van Helsing, but I also think that it could have been stronger with Peter Cushing. Not necessarily Van Helsing, but with Peter Cushing. So with that, I hope everyone out there, you've enjoyed this conversation in Hammer Studio Horrors, in which we discussed Dracula Has Risen from the Grave from 1968. Please make sure to check out the previous episodes in which the previous 3 especially, that we did of this franchise, and make sure to like, follow, share, subscribe, do that thing you do with your favorite podcast and your favorite podcast app, Spotify or YouTube, because as we have mentioned, we will be discussing more of this franchise later on in the year, so you have to be a subscriber so you never miss an episode. And please check out other episodes on other Hammer Studio horror films, because we have done a lot of them already and they are entertaining, especially if you are a Hammer Studio fan. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment, please have a great day, and make sure that you have those giant crosses ready to put on your door so that the vampires can't enter. Have a good day.
Now my revenge is complete.
Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures and Something Wicked Entertainment podcast. It is hosted by Kevin L. Powers, original music provided by Dusty Ellison, produced and directed by Kevin L. Powers. Our executive producer is Kelly A. Inoka. This podcast is produced in Gwinnett County, Georgia. Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors is part of the Conversations in Horror podcast franchise and is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures. No part of this program can be used without express permission from Broken Lighthouse Pictures.